The knock at midnight. The wind howled outside. Rain hit the old cabin windows like tiny stones. Ethan sat near his fireplace, reading an old book and sipping hot tea. It was just another quiet night deep in the forest, until he heard it. Knock. Knock, knock. The sound was soft but urgent. Someone was at the door. Ethan froze. No one ever came here. His cabin was hidden miles from the nearest town. No neighbors, no visitors. No one should be knocking. He stood slowly and put down his cup. His boots echoed softly on the wooden floor as he walked to the door. Another knock came. Faster this time. Almost like panic. Knock, knock, knock. Ethan unlocked the bolt, grabbed his old pistol from the table and opened the door carefully. What he saw made his heart stop. A girl stood there. Not human. She had glowing purple eyes, thin silver hair soaked from the rain, and skin that shimmered pale blue under the lightning. She was shaking, barefoot, bleeding, and barely standing. Before Ethan could speak, she whispered in a weak voice, "Please, help. Don't let them find me." And then she collapsed. Ethan acted fast. He dropped to his knees and caught her just before she hit the floor. Her body was cold, too cold, and light as a feather. She had deep cuts on her arms, a bruise on her cheek, and what looked like burns along her back. He didn't ask questions. He just carried her inside and laid her gently on the couch near the fire. Her breathing was shallow. She winced in pain, but didn't wake up. Ethan grabbed towels and a first aid kit. He cleaned her wounds, wrapped her arms, and covered her with a blanket. She stirred once, flinching in fear, but didn't open her eyes. Who was she? What was she running from? Hours passed. The storm outside grew stronger, but inside, the fire kept them warm. Ethan sat beside the couch watching the strange girl sleep. He had seen aliens before, on screens and stations passing through, but never like this. Never at his doorstep. At midnight, her eyes opened. She sat up suddenly and gasped, staring at Ethan in terror. Her hands glowed faintly with strange energy. She looked ready to fight. "Wait," Ethan said, raising his hands. "You're safe. Here, I helped you." She blinked, confused. Her glow faded. "You didn't turn me in?" she asked, her voice soft, shaky. Ethan shook his head. "No, who are you?" She looked at the fire, then back at him. "I'm Sira." He waited. She said nothing more. She was clearly scared and hungry. Ethan brought her bread and water. At first, she didn't touch it, but after one small bite, she ate like she hadn't had food in days. Ethan watched silently. Every movement she made was careful. She kept glancing at the window as if something or someone might break in at any moment. "I don't want to cause you trouble," she whispered, her voice full of guilt. "You didn't knock for no reason," Ethan replied. "You were hurt. You needed help." She nodded slowly. "They'll come for me. The ones who own me. They always find me." Ethan frowned. "Own you?" Sira looked down. Her hands trembled. "I escaped. I was not supposed to live free." The fire cracked. Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Suddenly, a small beep came from her arm. She panicked, pulling back her sleeve to reveal a glowing device under her skin. It was blinking red. "They found me," she whispered in horror. Ethan stood. "Is that a tracker?" She nodded fast. "Yes. They always put one inside us, to make sure we never run." "Can it be removed?" She looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "If you try and fail, it could explode, or alert them faster." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Then we'll do it right. But you're not leaving this cabin alone again." She stared at him, unsure. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you helping me?" Ethan looked her in the eyes. "Because you knocked on my door," he said simply. "And because someone has to care." That night, while Sira slept beside the fire, Ethan stayed awake, thinking. He had no idea who Sira really was. He didn't know who was hunting her, but one thing was clear. Whatever trouble she brought, it had already begun, and he had just taken the first step into something far bigger than himself. She woke up, screaming. The storm had passed, but the silence felt heavy. Ethan had barely slept. He sat in the old wooden chair beside the couch, watching the strange alien girl rest. Her name was Sira. She looked peaceful now, but Ethan knew that peace wouldn't last long. There was a red glow under her skin, a tracker. At dawn, the fire crackled low. Outside, birds began to sing. But inside, something else broke the quiet. Suddenly, Sira screamed. She sat up fast, gasping, her eyes glowing purple again, her hands lit with the same strange light as before, bright and unstable. It made the air feel electric. No, no, get away. She shouted, her voice sharp and filled with panic. Ethan stood up quickly. Sira, it's me. You're safe, it's Ethan. But she didn't hear him. She was caught in a memory. No more cages. No more chains. She cried out. Her glowing, hands formed sharp energy claws ready to strike. Ethan didn't run. He stepped closer slowly, like approaching a scared animal. You're not in a cage, he said softly. You're in my cabin, you're safe here. Her breathing slowed. Her hands stopped glowing. She blinked hard, tears running down her cheeks. I thought I was back in the lab, she whispered. Ethan helped her sit. He offered her water, which she drank shakily. Was it a dream? She asked. No, Ethan said gently. It was a memory. Sira nodded slowly. They used to keep us in cells. They tested us. They said we were failed designs. Ethan's jaw clenched. That's sick. They called us property, she added. If one of us ran, the others suffered. There was a long silence. The fire popped again. Ethan finally asked, Are they still after you? Sira wiped her eyes. Yes. If they find me, they'll either drag me back or kill me. Later, that morning, Ethan prepared tools on the table, pliers, sterilizer, a scanner he had from his old mechanic job. Sira sat nearby, her arm bare, staring at the blinking light under her skin. You're sure you want to try this? Ethan asked. Sira nodded. The longer it stays in me, the more danger I bring to you. He sat beside her. Then let's be careful. He scanned her arm. The tracker was small but connected to nerves. If it was pulled wrong, it could trigger an alert, or worse. Ethan took a breath. I'm going to numb the area. She didn't flinch as he pressed the needle, but she grabbed his shirt with her free hand. If I scream, she whispered, don't stop. Ethan nodded. Minutes passed slowly. With each small movement, sweat formed on Ethan's forehead. Sira's jaw tightened, but she stayed still. He used a tiny metal probe to carefully lift the tracker, disconnecting it from the nerves. Just when he thought it was over, the tracker flashed red. Sira gasped. It's sending a signal. Ethan didn't panic. He grabbed a containment box and threw the tracker inside. It sealed shut and silenced the signal. They both held their breath. Then, nothing. No beeps. No drones. No ships. It was quiet. Ethan smiled. It's out. Sira stared at him, then down at her arm. She touched the spot where the tracker had been, and for the first time her face softened. I'm free, she whispered. That night, Sira ate real food. She laughed once, just a soft sound, unsure of herself. Ethan saw something in her eyes. Now that hadn't been there before. Hope. She stood near the fireplace, holding a blanket around her shoulders. Why do you live alone? She asked him. Ethan shrugged. After the war, I wanted peace. Quiet. No orders. No chaos. You were a soldier? Engineer. He corrected. I fixed things for soldiers, then stopped wanting to fix anything anymore. Sira looked at him with gentle eyes. But you fixed me? He smiled. Still learning. As the fire faded to embers, Ethan prepared a second bedroll near the fire for her. Sierra looked at it and then looked at him. "I never had someone make space for me," she said. Ethan replied, "You'll always have a place here." Outside, the forest was still, but both of them knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long because somewhere in the galaxy, someone would be missing their property. And next time, they might not knock. I removed the tracker. Then we ran. The wind had changed. Ethan stepped outside the cabin just before dawn. The forest felt too quiet. No birds, no animals, just silence. He looked up at the sky, and for a moment he swore he saw something flash, behind the clouds. Something watching. Inside, Sierra was asleep, wrapped in the blanket he had given her. She looked peaceful, but Ethan knew that peace wouldn't last. The tracker was out. That should have made them safe. But something about the silence outside made Ethan uneasy. He went back in and checked the containment box. The removed tracker was still inside, dead, no signals. He had shut it down and shielded it in a metal-lined case. But if even 1 second of signal had leaked before that, he clenched his fists. "We need to move," he whispered to himself. Sierra woke up to the smell of roasted bread and a quiet voice. "Eat first," Ethan said, handing her a plate. "We may not have time later." She blinked. "Why? What happened?" Ethan nodded toward the window. "The forest is silent. That means something's wrong." Sierra froze. "Silent?" "Yes. It's how I knew trouble was coming during the war. Animals run first. When it's too quiet, it means death is near." Sierra stood slowly, eyes narrowing. "They found me." Ethan nodded once. "I think they're coming." They packed quickly. Ethan grabbed only what mattered: water, food, the medical kit, his pistol, and an old plasma rifle that barely held charge. Sierra took nothing but her clothes and the small piece of metal that used to be her tracker. "I don't want to forget what they did to me," she said, slipping it into her pocket. "It reminds me I survived." Ethan didn't argue. They left the cabin through the back. Thick trees and rough hills lay ahead, but Ethan knew the paths well. He had maps burned into memory. Places where drones couldn't fly, where signals dropped, where shadows hid life. Sierra followed close. Her steps were quiet, light, like she belonged to the forest. Hours passed. They moved fast and low through the woods. Every few minutes, they stopped and listened. The silence behind them became a buzz, then a hum, then finally the unmistakable sound of drones. Sierra whispered, "They brought seekers." Ethan cursed under his breath. Seekers were machines, small, fast, and ruthless. They could smell blood, pick up heat signatures, and track even the faintest echo of alien energy. Sierra's very breath could give them away. They slid down a hill, into a cave Ethan remembered from years ago. It wasn't much, but it was dark and deep. They hid. The sound grew louder. Ethan held his breath as shadows passed over the cave entrance. A silver drone hovered, scanned the ground, then moved on. Another followed, and another. Sierra's hands trembled. "If they see us," she whispered. "They won't," Ethan said. "Not if you stay still." Suddenly a noise echoed from the forest, a scream. Not human. Not animal. Something else had been caught. The drones changed direction. In seconds, they were gone. Sierra turned to Ethan. "They're using traps. Anything alien. Doesn't matter who." "They're sweeping the area," Ethan said. "We have to go deeper. I know an old mine shaft nearby. They won't scan there. Too much interference." They kept moving. The mine entrance was broken, covered with vines. Few would notice it. Inside it was dark and cold, but safe for now. Sierra sat on a rock and let out a shaky breath. "I didn't think anyone would go this far for me," she whispered. "Not after what I've seen." Ethan crouched beside her. "You don't have to be alone anymore." "But why?" she asked. "I'm not even your kind." Ethan looked into her glowing purple eyes. You knocked on my door. That made you mine to protect. She blinked, eyes wide. That sounds like an old Bond phrase. Ethan chuckled. I just made it up. Sierra smiled, her first real smile. Suddenly, her smile vanished. She grabbed Ethan's hand. We're not alone. Ethan turned. Someone was moving deeper in the tunnel. He raised his weapon, heart pounding. From the shadows, a figure stepped out. It wasn't human. It wasn't machine. It was something else, tall, armored, glowing faint red. A bounty hunter. Secrets in the blood. The tunnel air turned colder. The glowing red figure stood tall, motionless at first. Ethan held his weapon steady, heart pounding in his chest. Beside him, Sierra's glow returned, soft, violet light rising from her hands. The bounty hunter stepped closer, metal boots echoing on the stone floor. His armor was smooth, black and red, with a sharp insect-like mask hiding his face. A voice came through his helmet, flat and soulless. Target located. Royal genetic match confirmed. Sierra froze. Ethan glanced at her. What does that mean? Sierra didn't answer. Her lips trembled. Her body shook, not from fear, but something deeper. Something she'd kept hidden. I didn't want you to know, she whispered. I didn't even want to remember. The bounty hunter raised his arm. A light blinked on his wrist. Return now, and your death will be painless. You are royal property. You belong to the High Genetic Council. Ethan stepped in front of Sierra, gun raised. She belongs to no one. The hunter aimed a weapon. Then die with her. The shot fired, but it missed, because Sierra had screamed, not out of fear, but rage. The tunnel shook as energy exploded from her body. Her glow turned bright violet, covering her in a shimmering field. The stone cracked beneath her feet. The bounty hunter was thrown back, crashing against the wall. Ethan stumbled, shielding his eyes. The light faded slowly, and what he saw made him forget how to breathe. Sierra was floating slightly above the ground. Her hair shimmered like silver fire. Her eyes glowed with power. Her skin, once pale blue, now showed glowing veins of purple and gold. Sierra, Ethan whispered. What are you? She looked at him. I was born from royal blood, a prototype, one of the last made before the Empire fell. Ethan blinked. Fell? Sierra nodded. There was a rebellion. The people rose, the labs burned. I escaped during the fire. I thought I was safe. But they sent hunters to capture or destroy the remaining prototypes. Ethan looked at the bounty hunter crawling back to his feet. And that thing is here to bring you back? She shook her head. No. He's here to erase the Empire's mistakes. The hunter charged again, but this time Sierra didn't run. She lifted one hand. A wave of energy slammed him into the wall. His mask cracked. Sparks flew from his armor. Still, he didn't stop. He rose again like a machine with no soul. I am not a mistake, she said, stepping forward. Ethan fired his rifle. The shot hit the hunter in the chest, slowing him down, just enough. Sierra summoned her energy once more and struck the final blow. A beam of purple light that lit up the tunnel and silenced the enemy for good. The hunter collapsed, smoke rising from his armor. It was over. For now. Sierra dropped to her knees, exhausted. Ethan rushed to her side. You're bleeding. She looked down at her arm. The energy had left burn marks on her skin. I used too much power. I'm not like the others. My body can't handle full output. You need rest, Ethan said. No, she whispered. I need to tell you something else. He helped her sit down. Her hands trembled as she spoke. There's something in my blood, Ethan. Something they were trying to create. Not just power, not just defense. They were trying to make a key. Ethan frowned. A key to what? She looked into his eyes. To control life. The Empire wanted to create a royal bloodline that could command all engineered species. My blood has the code. Ethan's eyes widened. Then you're not just a fugitive. You're a threat to anyone in power. She nodded. That's why they'll never stop chasing me. Silence filled the cave for a while. Ethan lit a small lantern. Sierra leaned against the wall, breathing slow and heavy. "You should leave me," she whispered. "They'll come again. Stronger, smarter. I don't want you to die because of me." Ethan didn't move. He didn't even blink. "You think I'll walk away now?" he asked. "After all we've been through?" She didn't reply. "I don't care what's in your blood," he said. "I don't care what they call you, I only care about the girl who knocked on my door." Sierra looked at him, her eyes full of something new. Trust. Far above the cave, the sky lit up with a new ship entering. Orbit. The signal from the bounty hunter may have been weak, but it was received, and more were on the way. The marriage law smoke still hung in the cave. Sierra leaned against Ethan's shoulder, weak but breathing. The fight with the bounty hunter had drained her. Her glowing veins had faded now, hidden again under her pale blue skin. Outside, the forest was silent but not safe. Ethan knew more enemies would come. The Empire didn't forgive. And they didn't forget. "We need a plan," he said quietly. Sierra shook her head. "There's nowhere left to run." "There has to be a way to protect you," Ethan said. She looked up at him. "There is, but it's dangerous." An hour later, Ethan pulled out an old datapad he'd stored years ago. It still worked. Sierra tapped through it, searching for something. Her hands were shaking. "What are you looking for?" he asked. Sierra hesitated. "A loophole in galactic law." Ethan raised a brow. "A legal loophole?" "Yes. There's a law from the old empire. It still exists in outer colonies. If someone of royal blood is claimed by a native under protection protocol, they can't be hunted." Ethan frowned. "Claimed how?" Sierra's voice was soft. "Through union. Through marriage." The cave fell silent. Ethan blinked. "Wait, you mean?" "It's not about romance," she said quickly. "It's survival. If you accept the bond, they can't legally touch me unless they want war with Earth's people." Ethan leaned back. "And if I don't?" "They'll find me, and they'll erase everything I am, including what they put in my blood." She looked down. "I'm not asking for love. I'm asking for protection." Ethan studied her. This alien girl who had collapsed on his porch was now trusting him with her life. Again. She wasn't begging, she wasn't crying, she was offering herself with quiet strength. "You'd be my wife?" he asked gently. "Only by law," she whispered. "Unless you ever wanted more." The bond process was strange. They stepped into an ancient outpost hidden deep in the forest, long forgotten by both humans and aliens. Its system still worked, barely. Ethan wiped dust from a scanner panel as Sierra linked her wrist to the interface. The screen lit up. "Royal signature detected. Request for civilian bond confirmed." Ethan placed his hand on the scanner. The machine buzzed. "Do you accept full protection of this being under Galactic Marriage Law 47A? He looked at her. "Are you sure?" She nodded once. "Yes. I do," he said. A light shimmered. The bond was complete. They left the outpost, in silence. The moment they stepped outside, the air felt different. "Do you feel it?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Like something just changed. We're marked now. The Empire will know the bond was made. It will enrage them. But it also protects you," she smiled slightly, "and ties me to you." He chuckled. "Well, I've had worse roommates." She laughed softly, for the first time without fear. That night, back at a new shelter Ethan had built beneath the old mine, they sat near a fire. The stars outside blinked through cracks in the rock ceiling. Sierra looked up at them. "Back on my homeworld, we believed the stars were the eyes of our ancestors." Ethan stared too. "And what do you think now?" She paused. "I think maybe one of those stars sent me to your door." Ethan glanced at her. "And what do you see in me now?" She didn't answer. She simply leaned her head on his shoulder. But peace never lasted long. A message blinked on the datapad. Unknown source. Distorted voice. You violated galactic law. You married property. That makes you a criminal now, human. Ethan gritted his teeth. Let them come. The voice continued. We won't kill her anymore. We'll take your life, instead. And she'll watch. Sierra touched the screen and the message ended. I told you they would be angry, she whispered. I don't care, Ethan said. They can come with their ships, their laws, and their threats. I'll still stand in front of you. She looked at him. Then maybe this isn't just law anymore. Somewhere above Earth's orbit, warships moved. The bond had triggered something. Greater than protection, it had awakened old enemies, but in the heart of the forest. Two souls stood ready, not just man and alien, but husband and wife. The Empire strikes. They came without warning. A thunder shook the trees. Birds scattered. The sky above the forest turned red as the Empire's warship broke through the clouds. It didn't hide this time. It didn't sneak. It came to conquer. Inside the underground shelter, Ethan stood near the old scanner, watching the red dot blink closer. They're here, he said. Sierra already knew. Her skin had started to glow. Again, faint purple lines pulsing under her arms and neck. Her breathing slowed, calm, controlled. But her eyes, they were burning. She wasn't scared anymore. They're angry, she said softly. They see your name next to mine in the bond logs. They'll call it treason. Ethan grabbed his rifle. Then they're declaring war on my home. Above, them dropships landed with loud hissing steam. Black armored soldiers poured out, Imperial enforcers with red visors and energy rifles. Their boots crushed trees as they marched, scanning for movement. From high above, the ship sent out a loud metallic voice across the land. Return the royal experiment, break the illegal bond, surrender the human. Inside the mine, Ethan rolled, his eyes. They sure talk a lot. Sierra stood tall beside him. They only threaten when they're unsure. He turned to her. And are you sure? She looked him in the eyes. Yes. Ethan's shelter was ready. He had spent days rebuilding it. Metal doors, hidden tunnels, old defense drones from his service days. Nothing fancy. Just enough to buy time. But he knew. They couldn't stay hidden forever. The first explosion hit the surface above them. Dust rained down. The ground shook. One wall cracked. They're testing the structure, Ethan said, trying to scare us. They'll send the hunters next, Sierra whispered. She was right. The second wave wasn't loud. It was quiet. Deadly quiet. Tiny, silver creatures slipped into the cracks, slithering, crawling. They looked like metal spiders, but each one had a glowing red eye. Trackers. Ethan and Sierra moved fast. They ducked into a side tunnel while the drones followed false heat signals he had set up. Still, one tracker caught a glimpse of them and shrieked. They found us, Ethan said. Sierra placed her hand on the wall. Her glow passed into the stone. The tracker exploded. Ethan stared at her. You've been holding back. Sierra gave a sad smile. I was afraid, but I can't afford that anymore. They ran through the mine, dodging blasts, slipping between support beams, until they reached the old core chamber, a forgotten place from the planet's early mining days. It was deep, shielded, but not indestructible. Ethan placed charges at the upper tunnels to delay pursuit. Sierra stood in the middle of the chamber, eyes closed. What are you doing? He asked. Listening, she said. To the ship above. They're connected to me. Telepathic link, genetic signal. All royals are born with it. They programmed it into us to obey commands, but I've been fighting it for years. Her body shook. They're trying to take my will. Ethan rushed to her. Sierra, stay with me. Her eyes snapped open. They want me to kill you. He held her face in his hands. Look at me. I'm real. I'm yours. The glow in her body trembled and then steadied. She smiled faintly. Their commands don't work when you hold me. Suddenly the roof shook again. This time, metal claws ripped through. A tall figure dropped into the chamber. Not a soldier. Not a machine. A high executor, tall, thin, with no face, just a mask of shifting light. He spoke with a voice that felt like wind and ice at the same time. The bond is illegal. You are a stolen tool. Return now, or he dies screaming. Gray stepped forward. I am no one's tool. The executor raised a hand. Ethan fired, but the shot was caught mid-air by invisible force. I am the law, the executor hissed. Then your law dies here, Sierra said. Her energy burst out, lighting the entire chamber. Ethan was thrown back, shielded by the force field she created. The executor screamed as light poured into his core. His mask cracked. He tried to flee, but her hands pulled the light from within him. In seconds, he vanished. Dust filled the chamber. Sierra dropped to her knees. Ethan ran to her, caught her before she hit the ground. You okay? He asked, voice shaking. She looked up. I ended a high executor. Do you know what that means? He nodded. It means they'll come harder. She leaned into him. Then I hope you're ready, husband. Above the planet, the Imperial ship pulled back, not in victory, but in fear. They had sent their best and failed. Husband and protector, a full day passed. The forest was quiet again, not the dead, fearful quiet from before, but the stillness after a storm. Birds slowly returned. Wind whispered through the leaves. The sky, once red with fire, now glowed soft, gold. Ethan stood outside the mine entrance, his rifle slung over his back. He scanned the horizon. No warships, no drones, just silence. But he knew better than to relax. Inside, Sierra was still recovering. She had burned through more power than ever before. Using the royal signal in her blood to destroy a high executor wasn't easy. It had shaken her body to the core. Yet, she survived. When she finally woke, she found Ethan by her side, asleep, in the chair, his hand still holding hers. She smiled weakly. You stayed. His eyes opened slowly. Of course. I'm your husband now, remember? Her voice was soft. You could have run. Ethan shook his head. I told you the night. You knocked. I protect what comes through my door. Sierra sat up. Her body still ached, but she felt something new. Strength. Then it's my turn to protect you, she said. That afternoon they climbed to the surface together. The wreckage of the Empire's attack lay scattered across the forest. Melted armor, crashed drones, broken steel. Smoke curled from the earth like scars in the soil. Ethan kicked a burnt helmet. They really thought we'd break. Sierra looked toward the sky. They still might return. They will, Ethan said. But next time they won't just face a scared girl and a tired man. She turned to him. Next time, they'll face a bonded pair. He grinned. And this time we won't just run. A message came that evening, broadcast across the stars, from the High Galactic Court. To all forces of the fallen Empire, any further action against Earth or its civilians will be seen as a declaration of war. The royal subject known as Sierra is now under Earth's full protection, by bond, by law, by choice. Sierra read the message twice. Her hands trembled, not in fear, but in disbelief. They recognized it, she whispered. They recognized us. Ethan nodded. The law you used, it worked. She turned to him, eyes shining. We're not fugitives anymore. We're a warning. The news spread fast. Across alien stations and border worlds, whispers began. Of a human who married. An alien fugitive faced an empire and won. Some called it luck, others called it love. But those who truly knew how the empire worked, they called it something else. Rebellion. Weeks passed. Sierra's health returned, stronger than ever. Her powers didn't fade. They grew clearer. Under Ethan's guidance, she learned to control them better. No more random bursts. No more panic. She could lift rock, bend steel, even connect to ancient machines just by touching them. Ethan upgraded their shelter, and together they rebuilt his cabin, bigger, smarter, safer. At night, they sat by the fire, just like that first night. But now she didn't shake. She didn't cry. She didn't whisper, "Don't let them find me." Now she whispered, "Thank you for finding me." One night, under the stars, she looked at him with glowing eyes. "I've been thinking," she said. "Uh-oh," Ethan teased. "I know we married for protection, but what if I want it to mean more now?" He blinked. "More?" Sierra stepped closer. "I don't want to just survive beside you. I want to live with you." Ethan smiled. "You sure? I snore. I'm grumpy in the mornings." She kissed him. Soft, real, full of promise. "Yes," she said. "I'm sure, husband." Far away in the dark corners of the galaxy, the Empire's remnants still stirred. They had lost a battle, yes, but they whispered of revenge, of weapons not yet unleashed. But none dared speak openly, because the name Ethan of Earth was now known, and beside him, Syrah of royal blood. A man and a woman, a husband and a protector, a bond that broke chains and changed history. The end.